Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Peter Llewellyn. I run the services at MedComms and the associated websites. Information, resources, services, activities for people who work in and around medical communications, medical education, medical publishing, and the associated businesses across the world. We do all sorts of webinars and activities. We generate a lot of video content, for instance. So over at NetworkPharma TV, you'll find something like 500 videos now all about MedComms. In particular, we also do a lot of work to provide information to people who are interested in joining our business. So you might want to join as a medical writer or an account manager or editor or whatever. And if you go and look at firstmedcommsjob.com, you'll find lots of information and resources that will hopefully help you understand the business and guide you in. At the moment, I'm having a bit of fun. I'm talking to people across the business about their personal journeys and their roles today. And I'm delighted today. I'm joined by a couple of people from Bedrock, Laura and Mariona. So I'm going to start, Mariona, ask you just to introduce yourself and tell us what you do at Bedrock.
Okay, well, thanks, Peter. Hi, everybody. My name is Mariona Sumarroca. Like many people in MedComms, I kind of stumbled across it, across the business and across it. So I have a BSc in pharmacy back in Spain because I'm Spanish. Then I decided to move to the UK to study a master's in genetics and nutrition. I started working for a genetics company. I then, as I said, I sort of like stumbled across the MedComms world and especially Bedrock, and I joined approximately 6 months ago as a medical writer, and I am really happy about the decision that I took 6 months ago.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, we'll talk a bit more about the role in a moment, but let's bring Laura in. Laura, tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Laura Redman. I'm a senior account manager at Bedrock within the client services team. Been with Bedrock now for 6.5 years, so have seen lots of change and progress in that time. So yeah, one of the more experienced team members when it comes to Bedrock.
Okay, and Laura, can I ask you just to sort of paint a bit of a picture, Bedrock and the bigger group and so on, just tell us how that all works.
Of course. So Bedrock is a medical communications agency. So we deliver things around publications. We can do all sorts with scientific events, strategic communications, supporting with comms plans, that sort of thing. Lots and lots of different capabilities within the team. We sit under a parent company called Resonant Group. So within Resonant Group, there are actually 3 agencies. So you have Bedrock, specialising in MedComms, and then you have Origins that look after patient insights and associated projects there, and then Anthem that are more tailored towards the public relations space.
Okay, so and size-wise, 30, 40 people, am I right in my head?
Yeah, still quite a small agency. So yes, probably about 30 people within Bedrock itself.
Okay, and a couple of locations in the UK.
Yeah,
that right?
that's correct. Yep. So there's an office in Fleet in Hampshire, and then there's also an office in London. Quite a few remote workers as well that are based around the country as well. So we're all geographically spread out.
Okay, but to make the obvious point, you're UK based. All your team is UK based, but I guess you're working at a global level, yeah?
Yep, correct. Yeah.
Okay. So look, Laura, let's just stick with you for a moment, if I may. Tell us a bit more about your journey in. You've come up through the account management route, yeah?
Correct.
So just talk to us a little bit about how you came to join the business and the direction you've gone in.
Yeah, sure. So at university, I studied a degree in biology. When I finished university, I've had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do, and ended up working in the retail sector for quite a big retailer in their head office. Did that for 1.5 years. But I felt like because I'd worked so hard to get my degree, I really wanted to do something with that. So somebody suggested to me this company in my hometown that was very heavily involved in clinical trials. So I took a look at that and noticed that they had some job openings within their, it was scientific communications team. They had job openings for medical writers as well as project managers in their client services team. So I wasn't sure which one. Am I more do I lean more towards the medical writing route, or is project management more where I sit? So I got in touch with the recruiter at that company and had a really good chat with them. They took me through the role, both the roles, what the responsibilities are, what sort of person they were looking for each of those roles. And through that conversation, I realised that I probably sat more towards the project management client services space than the medical writing role. So I decided that I'd apply for that role and was lucky enough to get the position, and then started work in that company in their project management team, and sort of rose up through the ranks, did 2.5 years there, and then decided I needed a bit of a different challenge. Was looking to move outside of just focusing on clinical trials, and that's when I found Bedrock, and yeah, managed to get a position with Bedrock and have stayed ever since, because the work is so varied. There's lots going on, and I've really enjoyed my time at Bedrock so far.
Okay, can I just stick with that, because it's interesting that that you were in that position where you very clearly saw two routes: account management, medical writing, and went through a process of which route for me. Can you just remember a little bit and give us a sense of why you went one route rather than the other?
So for me, I'm quite a process-driven, organised, like to plan type person. I've always had sort of customer service type roles in the past, and the role that I was in within the retail world was very sort of data focused and sort of analysing figures and things like that. And I felt like I could transfer those skills more towards account management, where you're looking at numbers, you're looking at budgets and resourcing, and you're looking at forecasting. So there's quite a big numbers element to an account management role. Also, perhaps not quite as creative for a medical writing role. So for me, writing's probably perhaps not where my strength lies. So I would have struggled, I think, had I chosen to go down the route of medical writing. I don't think that would have suited me and my capabilities as much as account management has.
Okay, I think it's just interesting that you did very clearly see the routes and think it through. I think you said you sort of stumbled into it, but identifying those two routes is interesting. And we should say it's not just account management and writing. There are other routes in and so on, but they're the two main sort of areas that people focus on. And this sort of stumbling into the business is often the case, and people often stumble into one side or the other. So I just find it interesting that you saw very clearly those two. Mariona, let's bring you in. Mariona, you are a medical writer. You've only been in a few, I think you said 6 months or so. So it must be reasonably fresh in your mind as to the starting point. Did you? Well, just tell us a bit about your history in terms of where you were and how you saw how you found your route into medcoms and medical writing.
Yeah, so after finishing my pharmacy degree, I knew that I didn't want to work in a lab, because I did lots of lab hours back then and I enjoyed it very much, but I saw it wasn't what I was going to be good at in the future. That wasn't like my set of skills. So I got really interested in genetics. I moved to London. I did this master's in genetics, enjoyed it very much. And then I started working at a genetics company for a year. It was incredible, but then at some point after a year, I was like, okay, I feel like I need something extra. I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm looking for, but I'm just gonna be active in looking for a job, knowing new types of roles. And that's literally how I stumbled across it. I basically saw a medical writer job description. I think it probably was on LinkedIn. And I just thought, oh my God, that's what I want to do. I didn't know that this existed. I didn't know that there was this world of medcoms, but I was completely excited, completely like, I couldn't wait to do the interviews and like prepare for it. I thought it was the perfect job because I've already loved communicate like the science, the communicating part of science rather than the science itself,
Right.
although I enjoy a lot the science part. And I think it's amazing that as a MedComms we get to have like, we're at the forefront of scientific knowledge, and it's just something that excites me quite a lot. But then there's the big communication side of it, and it just felt like the perfect opportunity. So I applied for the job, did the interviews, had so much fun doing them, and then I got in, and ever since, I mean, I feel like this is where I want to be, and I feel like I've been super happy and lucky to be able to stumble across something like this and feel that this is where I belong, and the industry that I'm really looking forward to be in the long run.
Okay. But just to be clear, you saw medical writing and thought that's what I want to do,
Yeah.
and you went down that line, yeah?
Yeah.
So let's just stick with this a little bit. I'm always slightly intrigued. You've seen the opportunity, you're getting excited about it, you get the job, and then you're in it. Can you remember? And as I say, because you're relatively new in the business, like you can probably still remember quite how you felt when you came into the company and discovered what it was like for real. Can you help us remember quite how that felt, and what did you find that you'd expected, or but more importantly, perhaps, what did you find that you hadn't quite expected? See what I'm saying?
What I hadn't expected that much was the side of managing client expectations, because even though I'm in the side of medical writing and I would never be able to do the job that Laura does, because I think it's so complicated for me, it would be extremely complicated for me. Of course, they are the ones realistically managing the clients and having the relationship with them, but you're in calls with them the whole time. And me as a medical writer, I'm probably the one who works more a bit around like the raw data and like the really detailed scientific stuff. So when it comes to presenting that data, most of the times I'm the one presenting it. So that's when this client expectations relationship with them comes in, and that was what I wasn't expecting, although I feel I love it and I have so much fun doing it. And I'm not really scared about like the clients. Of course, there's like easy or difficult ones, but I'm enjoying it very much as well. But yeah, so basically what I felt when I started was that I had no idea that this world existed. I had no idea what was going on. Everything was excited. I was super excited the whole time, and I'm still super excited the whole time. So basically a bit of my feeling was, how come did I not know that this existed? I want to know more. I want to know all the processes, everything that we do to be able to deliver the work up to the highest standards. And I do really feel that we help the patients, that our ultimate goal is helping the patients. And I see that, and it's really like tangible in the types of works that we do. So I basically discovered the whole world that I didn't know it existed. And it was a magic feeling.
Okay, and a few months into the job, you've worked on presumably a variety of projects. Are you finding the variety quite good?
Yeah, I find that it's one of the most important things, at least for me, and the way I think and I operate. We normally at Bedrock, we're as medical writers, at least, I'm normally in between 3 or 4 projects with different clients. So I work in various therapeutic areas, which is really stimulating for me in terms of like not getting tired of one or the other. And then normally these projects are different types of materials. So it could be a masterclass, it could be a manuscript, it could be an abstract, an infographic. So for me, it's really fun at the same time to be able to divide my day and sort of like categorize every hour or every couple or every 3 into one thing, and then move it on to the next one, and then go back to that same thing. Because I also feel as a medical writer, you have to focus a lot on really, really small details. And when you're looking at a piece for more than, I would say, 4 hours, your brain just like, you can't see anything else. So you have to step back. Yeah, you have to step back a bit, look and work on other things, and then come back to it. And then you'll see and you'll realize whatever was wrong at that time. So different therapeutic areas, different projects, different clients, different teams. which is also really nice, because then you get to work with like everyone in the company
Right.
at some
Okay,
point.
so lots of variety in there. And that's what a lot of people in MedComms talk about. And it's a bit cliched, but very often people will say no 2 days are the same, and this sort of thing, that's part of the fun of it. Yeah. Laura, can I bring you back in? And I think I'm right in saying you're both working together on a similar on the same project at the moment. Is there a new project kicking off?
Yes.
Well, I just wondered whether you could just take that as an example in general terms, but just help us explain. Use that as an example of how you and how the two of you work together from your different points of view. Is that okay, Laura? Can you?
Yeah, sure. So
take us on the loop?
I guess when we're sort of scoping out the project, Mariona and I will discuss what the steps are to actually deliver that particular project. So we'll be looking at scoping that out fully, what hours are associated with that, so we can start putting some costs together for the client. We'll also have a look at timelines for it. So if they're saying that they need it by a certain date, is that feasible? What does that look like in terms of resourcing? So there's that collaboration between the teams. It's not a case of the request is coming to me and I go off and develop a cost and send it back. We're talking as a team to make sure that we're absolutely on the nail with what we're sending back to the client. When they decide that they want to go ahead, then we'll get together as a team. We'll have a internal kickoff meeting. We'll look at the project brief in more detail. We'll go through exactly what the requirements are of every team member. Again, what the timelines are, if they've shifted around, which they inevitably do. So what that looks like. So we'll take a look through timelines. And yeah, we just keep in contact throughout that project life cycle. So even though we may not be based in the same office, we have our Teams channels that we make really good use of. So we're always talking and communicating as a team. We're ensuring that we're meeting regularly, normally on a weekly basis as an internal team group, to talk through the actions, any concerns, anything we need to raise with the client, and also the whole, well, some of the team will be joining me on client status calls as well. So if there's a particular question that we need answered, or we're reviewing a material on the call, then the team will get involved in that as well. So there's a lot of collaboration within the team when we're working on a project together. It's not a case of me being client services, I'm directing and telling people what to do and when. We're talking to each other about it, and working very closely together to make sure that that's being done. It's being done to time frames, to budget, to the quality that we're expecting as well. So it's very much a team effort.
Okay, and it's worth making the point, actually, you are both in separate offices, aren't you? So in the two offices, so that's just maybe just a point. I don't know, working practices these days, you don't all have to be in the same place and so on. But so from a client services point of view, you've probably been the main point of contact through that process. The clients probably talk to you, and you've led the way in terms of putting that proposal together. But then Mariona, you might get involved in terms of advising in terms of the specific type scientific content, I guess.
Exactly.
And if you're going to want me to write something like this is how long it's going to take and things like that. Yeah. Do you, just out of interest, Mariona, do you enjoy the new business development side, that sort of pitching for new work, or do you find that sort of just gets in the way of actually doing the work you're already supposed to? I just, again, it's a slightly flippant question, but I just wonder how you balance that out, because any business has to deliver the work but also bring in the new work, sort of thing. Have you had any thoughts on that?
So I would love, and I'm trying to get involved into new business development as easy as this, because I find it super fun to pitch projects to clients. I've never done it, but I think it's something I would really enjoy doing it. Okay. So yeah, I mean, of course it takes time from the actual work that you have to do, but as you were saying, you have to keep up with the work that you have, but you have to look out for new clients, new types of projects, also trying to develop new business ideas. Just by the process of trying to think of which is the correct client, which is the correct project, for what material, etc., makes you be really involved in whatever is happening out there, and that's something that I really like. Either if it's being on LinkedIn and trying to see what's out there, who's doing what, who are the competitors, etc. I find it fascinating to be able to know all that information and to gather everything and create a proposal that you can pitch to a client and hopefully get the project. So I'm not doing it for now, but yeah, it is on my plans to start doing.
Okay, so look, just as we wrap up in the next couple of minutes, and Mariona, can I start with you? I mean, if you as a medical writer, a few months into the job, if you met somebody who's thinking of doing the same as you and going in as a medical writer, you got any advice, any tips that they should be thinking about?
Okay, what I would say, no, what I would say, and it might not be a tip, but I would say, if you like science communications, go into it, because that was my biggest sort of like, since I didn't know the industry and I didn't know what a medical writer was, my first feeling was a bit like, I'm not sure if I really like this. Although when I wrote the job description, I was like, this is exactly me. But at the same time, since it was a completely new field, I was a bit like, should I really go for it? So my biggest advice to someone would be, if you like communicating science, and if you like the science part of it, but also you like speaking to people, you like being able to summarize the information, still being really scientific, but so that a patient organization can read through it and understand everything. If you like speaking about science with your friends who are not scientists, which is something that I did and I still do quite a lot, go for it. That would be sort of like my biggest advice. Once you're in, the biggest tip would be, what would I say? Try not to rush into a million things at the same time, because that's also, because of my personality, I never know how to say no to something. So it's a bit like, do you have capacity? Yes. Do you have capacity? Yes. Do you have capacity? Yes. And then I end up doing a million things, and normally you don't do them as good and as high quality as if you were doing 3 of them. So that would be also my advice to someone who gets into MedComms.
It's getting the balance right, isn't it? It's taking the opportunities to do the different things and to learn, but also not to overstretch yourself or let someone down. And just a nod, I guess, Mariona. But one of the things that I think is important to get out there to people who want to come into medical writing is that as a medical writer, you're not just sitting at a desk in a darkened cupboard writing.
No,
it's a and some of what you've talked about is about very different sorts of aspects of the work. So I think it's important people do get that, and you're part of a team, and there's all that support around you and that sort of thing. Okay, so Laura, come on. From your point of view, just as a wrap up, what have you got any advice for anybody coming into medical communications, maybe particularly on the account exec client services side?
Yeah, I mean, one of a more general tip I would say is take a look at how that agency is communicating about itself. That's probably a really important thing. We are in the communications industry, so it's really important to see how they are communicating about themselves, what they're putting out there in the public domain. So that's a really key thing to do. Some agencies are very traditional, some agencies are really creative and innovative. So, take a look, see where you would prefer to sit within that space. Within client services, account management, I would say that you need to make sure that you can balance lots of different aspects of work. So it's not just a case of speaking to clients all day. It is looking at finances, it is looking at timelines, it is speaking to in the internal teams. So there's lots of different aspects to the role that you need to balance and manage. So being organised is probably one of the biggest things that you would need to succeed in a client services role.
Okay. And to state the obvious, I mean, these days you can research a company, you can research the business. Obviously, what I'm doing, we're doing here today is giving people insights into the business. So it is important to take advantage of all those opportunities to research the business and the people you're talking to, and so on and so forth. So look, that was great. I love having these conversations because I love and I'm going to say particularly Mariona, your enthusiasm comes over. So absolutely brilliant. And I think we're giving people a clear message that there's a great career here. So thank you very much for that. I know I can speak for both of you and say that you're both very happy for people to reach out to you. LinkedIn is an easy way of doing it. So I hope people will do that. From my point of view, if anybody's interested in what I'm doing, medcommsnetworking.com, or give me a shout directly anytime. But thank you so much for joining in, guys, and telling us what you're up to. And if we just give a little wave and say goodbye, that's it for today. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.